Hi, welcome to my channel, Crate with Steve I. Today we're going to update my film and reading journals. Okay, so we will be updating my film and book journals. So we're going to start with the book journal first because it takes me longer to read than it does to watch a movie. So this one has less. So the first book since I last updated is called A Piece of the World by Christina Baker Klein. This is a really good book. It is based on the painting by, well, it's based on a very famous painting called, what was the name of it? Sorry, I should have remembered this. I remembered to look this up, but I did not. Christina's World is the name of the painting. I don't remember the name of the painter, but you could look it up and find out. But it's based on that woman. And it was I really enjoyed reading it. I gave it 4 stars. It wasn't anything flashy or like suspenseful or like tons of action kind of thing, but it was just a really good story. I really liked it a lot, so I recommend it. The next one I read is called The Lost City of the Monkey God. This one I picked up because I like kind of that explorer genre, where adventure kind of story, where I read a book called The Lost City of Z about a real life explorer who goes into the Brazilian the Brazilian Amazon forest looking for the lost city of Z, and he never returns, and that was in the 1920s. And this is looking for a lost city in the wilds of Honduras of a explorer, and they do find a lost city there. And it was a really good book. I really enjoyed it. Not as much as I enjoyed the other one, but it was a good book, and it was worth it was worth reading. So the next one I read is called The Zookeeper's Wife. It is a true story of a woman and her husband who run the Warsaw Zoo in Poland. It was a really good book. I really enjoyed reading it. There were parts, because it is a true story and it takes place during World War II, there were some parts that were brutal and that were hard to listen to. I listened to the audiobook for it. It was really brutal in some moments, but it was just a good book. And the sad thing, I think the thing that was the hardest for me at the very end of it was knowing, they finally get out from Nazi occupation, and then they have the Russian Bolshevik communist rule, and it's like just as bad. So it was really hard knowing that poor Poland suffered through it. Well, all the Eastern European countries suffered through that. Anyway, then we move on to The Tombs by Kiev Cussler. I don't read a lot of Kiev Cussler, but my stepdad loved him, so I read a couple of them just to check them out and see what they were like, and I enjoyed them. It was a fun book. I don't think I'll read a ton of his... Excuse me. For some reason I got the hiccups. I don't want to read a bunch more of him, but I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was about these two... this husband and wife team who are adventurers, and they go kind of like Indiana Jones treasure hunting, and they find the lost treasure of Attila the Hun. It was fun. So the next book that this one I listened to, it's called Get Your Life Back by John Eldredge. He is a Christian writer who talks about, this book is about like getting off your cell phone and looking at nature and taking time to be quiet and taking time to like look at beauty and taking time to do other things instead of just sitting on our cell phones and rotting our brains. It was really good, and I started listening to it again. I finished it, but I started listening to it again because I definitely I want to put into practice all of his stuff. So I'm listening to it again and starting to try to force myself to put that into practice. The next one I read is called Three Tales from Vienna. This was an amazing, amazing book, and it was about 3 sisters. It takes place from the perspective of 3 different sisters, Jewish women who are in Vienna from the time of the end of World War I until I think it was the 70s, 80s, or 90s. I can't remember exactly what the last date was, but it was a heartbreaking story of these three women and their families through the end of World War I into World War II and the aftermath that World War II had enacted. It was a really great book. I highly recommend it. Really recommend it, but it was disturbing in some spots. Not as I was thinking it was gonna be a lot worse than it was, so thankfully I was able to get through it, but there are moments that I was just like, ugh, you know, it just gets you. So anyway, that is the update of my reading journal. Now let's move on to my movie journal. I think yes, there's one over here. So the first movie that I watched after updating is called Cold Comfort Farm from 1995. One of my friends told me about it. It's a quirky little book, and I think it was written in the 30s about a woman who loses her money, and so she goes and stays with some family, and the family's quirky and eccentric, and it's a really fun movie. The next one is called The Spiral Staircase, which I'd seen before. It's been quite a long time since I'd seen it. I couldn't really remember the storyline, but it's about a woman who, because of trauma in her youth, can't speak, and so there are deaths going on in the small town of people who are deformed or people who have abnormalities. They're being killed off, and so it turns out the person who's killing them is actually living in the house that she's a maid at. So I'm not going to give anything away. It's free to watch on YouTube, but it was fun. This next movie I watched is called Love is News, and it is about a guy who is a news reporter, and he is trying to get a story from a wealthy woman who her love life is not working out the way he wanted, or way she wanted, and so he's trying to publicize it, but he's like conning her into thinking that he's not really a reporter, and so then she gets wind of it, and then she plays that she's in love with him and that they're getting married and puts that in the newspapers, and it's a funny, cute little comedy. So I recommend that one. And then the next one I watched was called The Rains Came, which I have to say, I used to love that movie, and this time through, it's been quite a while since I've seen it, but I just don't really care for it like I used to. So that was the next one. Then after that, I watched this movie that I've never really cared for. I don't really know why I don't really care for it, but I just don't care for it. But it's a Frank Capra film starring Cary Grant and Raymond Massey and Peter Lorre. I love Peter Lorre, but it's called Arsenic and Old Lace, about Cary Grant's character gets married, and on the day of him and his wife are getting ready to leave, he finds out that his two aunts are poisoning old gentlemen who are lonely to put them out of their misery. And it's a interesting, cute little comedy. It's nothing that I really care for, but my friend had some friends in town and they wanted to watch it because they'd never seen it before, but they like Cary Grant, and so I watched that with them. The next one I watched is another one I used to really like. It was on YouTube. It's called Leave Her to Heaven. It's about a woman who is pretty much insane. She wants everybody to love her best and to spend their time with her. So when she gets married, she expects her husband to drop everybody else and everything else for her, and she even kills or lets his brother drown, his younger brother drown, and kills their unborn child. She purposely falls down the stairs to kill her unborn child because it's taking away his attention from her. I used to really like it, but I don't like it anymore. It's disturbing, it's sad. So anyway, the next one I watched is called The Baroness and the Butler, and it's about a butler who gets into politics, and he ends up with the Baroness. It's a cute love story, comedy. I really liked it. And then we have Boy from Indiana, which I watched because one of my favorite, this is a film short, it's only an hour long. It's one of my favorite actresses, or character actresses from the golden era. Her name is Billie Burke. She is in this movie, so this is the reason I watched it. But it was a cheesy movie, not really good. It's about a guy who wants to become a horse racer, and it's just a silly movie. I don't remember all the details, but I didn't think it was that great. This next one I watched is called A Place of One's Own, and it was a old 40s ghost story where a ghost actually possesses the body of one of the servants, and it really wasn't that great. I didn't really like it that much, but I gave it a shot. I like James Mason and I like Margaret Lockwood, who were both in that, so I decided to watch it, and it wasn't anything special. I wouldn't recommend it. This next one I watched is called The Last of Mrs. Cheney. It has been redone a few different times, but the version that I'm used to is the one that stars Joan Crawford, because I used to be a huge fan of Joan Crawford, so I watched it. This one was the very first version of it with Norma Shearer in 1929, and it was okay. I didn't think it was that great, but it was all right. It's about a woman who befriends these rich people because she wants to steal the woman's pearl necklace, and she gets caught. This next one I watched is with Norma Shearer as well. It was available for free to watch. It's called The Divorcee. It's about a woman who finds out that her husband cheated on her, and she's devastated, and that night she ends up getting drunk, and then she ends up having an affair herself, and then her husband finds out, and then it's okay that he did it, but it's not okay that she did it, and so they get a divorce, and then later on, towards the end, they get back together. It was okay, nothing special. This next one I watched is called Unconquered. I watched it because it is, I don't know if you've ever watched in my other movie or videos, but one thing I do is on YouTube, they have lots of classic film, and I love classic films, so I add it to a playlist, and just as I get time to watch it, I watch it. So this is one of the next ones I watched. It was called Unconquered. It was a Cecil B. DeMille one with Gary Cooper and Paulette Goddard, and it takes place in America when it's like the birth of a nation kind of thing, where they're moving west from, the East Coast, and they're fighting the Indians and stuff like that. And it was okay. It was nothing I really cared too much for. I liked the love story aspect of it, but that was about it. And then the next one I watched is another Paulette Goddard movie. It's called The Lady Has Plans, and it is a funny little movie about a woman who gets impersonated. She's a spy for Germany, and she gets impersonated, and then the woman who's impersonating her ends up missing the flight, and she ends up taking it instead, and so people are contacting her trying to get information, and she doesn't know what's going on. It's a cute little comedy. I liked it. I recommend that one. The next one I watched is called Raiders of the Seven Seas, and I've watched it a couple different times, and it's okay. Nothing special. Swashbuckler. I like swashbucklers. It's fun, but it's about a man who's fighting. He's a pirate, and he's fighting the Spanish who have taken over the Caribbean, and he's fighting the Spanish. This next one I watched is called Diplomatic Courier, and it was a fun little kind of suspense movie, film noir, of a guy who finds out that his contact, he's supposed to get some information from his contact, but then his contact is telling him no, and then his contact ends up getting killed, so he's trying to solve the mystery. It's a good movie. I liked it. This next one I watched back in 2017 when it first came out. It's the TV show Feud, based on the supposed feud of Joan Crawford and Bette Davis during the making of Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. It is pretty much all fiction. It is fun fiction, but is still all fiction. So a friend of mine had watched a YouTube video talking about classic Hollywood, and they had talked about this show, and so she had wanted to watch it, and so I watched it with her. And while it is fun, it is nothing but fiction. All the characterizations are awful. Like, it's all like, you can't watch it expecting to learn truth. It's just all fiction, but fun at that. All right, so that is where I'm at. The next one, I haven't printed the cover yet, so that is my update of both my film and my reading journals. And stay tuned for the next time when I talk more about some of the movies and books that I've read. Thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!